I have an older type Craftsman saw, unlike the ones that I've seen online. It has a different style motor to it. It's been hanging up, starts but then blows the overload switch and stops. I've replaced the capacitor right here, and that did not solve the problem. Capacitor is good. So there must be something wrong in the motor, so now I'm in the process of taking it apart. To begin with, I've taken out the front panel, dangling free as you can see, and I removed the 4 bolts that are on the top of the table. Behind these bolts is a backup plate into which they screw, so they'll promptly drop off, land on the floor, and hopefully be found again. So I'm going to turn the saw over now and try to get at the motor. Okay, as you can see, the saw is turned over, and the motor here is different than the ones you see on the newer saws. It's retained by 2 fixtures. Apparently they're integral to the part of the motor. And getting that motor out so I can get it tested is going to be a chore, but I'm setting about to do just that. I'll start by removing this support frame, and also I'll have to take off the control knobs on each side. So I'll set about to do that and see how we come out. Okay, I've got the wheels off, or the control knobs off, and I also have to disconnect the wires that lead to the motor. Let's see here. Which are these? The red, black, and white. Go to the capacitor and to the control unit. Okay, got a good picture of those. I'll disconnect them and now go to the next stage of disassembling the frame. Okay, we freed the wiring for the motor, and I'm going to take off the 4 bolts that hold this bottom frame to the tabletop, make it easier to get at the motor, and then I'll pull the motor itself out. Okay, let's set about to do that. Helps here to have a nice long handle wrench in order to get at those corner screws. Makes the job go a lot easier. Have to remember to remove the ground wire so this will lift free, and also there's 2 screws that hold the plate on for the side adjusting wheel. So we'll take those off and lift the frame off the motor. Alright, we got the motor exposed, and there is 1 more grounding wire here on the back of it. It has to be disconnected, and also some fittings up here in order to get a free shot at pulling this out. Then we ought to be able to lift the motor out with the assembly, take it down to the shop and see how healthy it is or isn't. Okay, we've got the connecting bolts pretty much free, got the ground wire free. It looks like we ought to be able to lift out this whole motor assembly now. Let's try it. Sure enough, there it is, out of the saw. No sense in taking anything else apart. I'll take it down and check the motor out. Hang on for the next version. Well, this is kind of an interesting motor. Doesn't appear to have brushes on it anywhere. So, what is that? 209825106. Must be the serial number. And up here is the label. What does it say? It says it's a 120 volt, 12 amp, 3450 RPM, 60 hertz motor. Insulation class B, AMB 40 degrees centigrade, whatever that means. Some manufacturing code. So it appears also that the motor pivots on this bar. However, this bar has a screw through it that runs all the way through the base and has to be removed before you can pull out this pin, thereby releasing the motor assembly from the saw table assembly. So let's turn it over and see what the other side of that screw looks like. Well, there it is. It hasn't been mangled too badly so far. Let me try and get it out. Maybe I can get the motor off the assembly. Well, that wasn't such a success. I managed to shear off that bolt. So I guess I'm going to have to drill out the screw in order to free that pivot assembly. Always the hard way. Well, we had to drill that little fella out. As you can see there, right at that point. The bolt seems kind of superfluous, but I'll replace it when I do the reassembly. But now I should be able to pull this shaft out and free the motor, theoretically. We'll see how that goes. Just the bolt at this end. There we go. As you can see, I'm finally getting the swing arm shaft free. Should have the motor out in just a second. Finish freeing that shaft. We've got the shaft out. Alright, we've got the pin out of the assembly. The motor is almost free, but I still have to undo the crank bar. Interesting motor. I'm not familiar with the kind. Has no brushes to change that are evident. So I had hoped that that might be part of the source of the problem, but there doesn't appear to be any opportunity to change brushes on this kind of motor. We'll see what happens when we take it apart. Well, the motor checked out just fine, and that leaves only two components. The capacitor, I checked it and replaced it with a new one. I had previously had capacitor problems. And the basic switch and the overload switch are okay. The only thing remaining is this little relay coil, which I find from the internet only works properly when properly oriented. Now, I may have let this component dangle, and I'm going to reassemble things and try this out in different positions to see if the saw then performs properly. Only component left that's in question, so we'll reassemble things and give it a try. Well, I replaced all the electrical components, and lo and behold, when I'd originally taken this apart, I replaced the capacitor, which had been bad, and I put everything back together, but I didn't pay attention to the orientation of this relay. I didn't think it mattered, so I left it kind of willy-nilly when I put it in there. It turns out that the orientation of this relay is crucial. Unless it's in this horizontal position, it doesn't work right. So now that I've discovered that, I'm reassembling the components. Good capacitor. I've got a good on-off switch, and I've got a good overload switch. And the relay never did have a problem, it was simply misoriented. So now the job is to simply put it all back together. I've tried it out and it's running just fine. So that appeared to be my problem. If you have trouble with any one of these components, you know where to go searching for them.